Hey, welcome back to Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. I'm Landon, the Senior Director of the Global Energy Center at the Atlantic Council. We're on the ground at COP27, taking a pulse of how the global community is moving forward on the climate agenda, and specifically thinking through the issues critical to the energy transition as we move to a net zero future. I'm really excited to be joined today with Meredith Berger, who is the U.S. Department of Navy's Assistant Secretary for Energy, Installations, and Environment. Assistant Secretary Berger, great to have you here.
Thank you for spending time with me. This is wonderful.
Well, it's really exciting to see you at COP because obviously this is the vanguard of the Department of Defense coming in to a global climate conversation. Obviously, the national security strategy put climate at the fore of the global crisis and challenges that we're facing in the future. Why is the Department of Navy here, and what are you hoping to see come out of COP27?
So, Landon, I am thrilled to be part of the first Department of Defense official delegation that's here at COP. The Department of Defense and Department of Navy, we're an important voice here as is being discussed widely here today. The impacts of climate is making the world a more volatile place, and a more volatile world calls on the military, calls on the Navy and the Marine Corps to respond to those impacts when you see those crises happening. And so this is mission impact. This is a place where we have a voice and an opportunity, and very glad to be here to represent it.
When I think about the Department of Navy, I think about a massive global supply chain complex. And I'm interested to hear from you as we look to abate hard to debate sectors, the transportation sectors, the maritime sector. How does what the Department of Navy do influence through these clean energy conversations, influence that broader ecosystem, both on the defense side, but I think just globally, how it bleeds over to the commercial versions of what the Navy's doing?
Absolutely. So we like to say at the Navy, the Marine Corps, around the globe, around the clock, we're there not only when you need us, but all the time. It's that presence. And so it's logistics, it's transportation, it's partnership. It's all of these things that come together. So we're talking here a lot about climate action. The Department of Navy put out their Climate Action 2030. It's a strategy I'm very proud of and we're building on. And so we are looking at how we increase our resilience and reduce the climate threat with the overall objective of building a climate-ready force. So we talk a lot about at the Department of Navy that climate readiness is mission readiness. And readiness is a term that we throw around a lot, but it really has implications whether you're talking about military or not. And it's the ability to do your job, the ability to do what you're asked to do when you are required to do that. And that's pretty important for the Navy and Marine Corps, given some of the context, being first responders, being partners, making sure that we are fulfilling all of the things that the nation and the world asks us to do as part of the global community. On the energy front, we talk about energy security as mission success, which all goes back to being able to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So we've been looking at different energy opportunities for resilience, renewables, so that if the lights go out, whether it is because of a weather event or because of other resilience concerns, we stay on, we can keep going, we can do what we need to do, and we provide that benefit to partners and communities as well.
So are there particular technologies that the U.S. Department of Navy is looking at that is really excited about, both in terms of your operational tempo, but also your installations? I know you just mentioned renewable energy, but what's that look like going forward over the next 5-10 years?
So one example I'm really proud of is that our Marine Corps out at Logistics Base Albany is our first net zero energy base in the Department of Defense. So it's pretty cool, and it's taken probably about a decade in terms of persistence, partnerships with communities, local energy companies, the municipal government, all came together, and year over year, commanding officers changed out, but regardless of that, they stayed on this path and were able to achieve net zero energy, and they're continuing to go putting in charging infrastructure so that they can be able to charge their vehicles. And this is significant because this is a logistics space as well. And so you noted earlier that there's kind of this global demand in terms of how we work, how we operate. And so logistics is a major concern, whether we're talking about getting different supplies there, or energy. So we think about operational energy, and when we are less dependent on fossil fuels, it's wonderful because we're putting less greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere, but also it means that we are more secure. We are less dependent on energy resources where logistics is challenging. You can't always get what you need when you need it. And then we're on station longer. When you're using electric or other alternative energies, you're quieter. You have less of a heat signature. All the things that are really operationally significant and keep us competitive are also things that are good for the climate, and it's our climate action.
Well, I just think about everything that's going on in the world, and I want to close the conversation by having a little bit of thought about the current state of geopolitics, the global energy crisis. We're coming off the pandemic, and at this moment of a massive need for climate action, there's also a massive need for energy access and access to reliable energy overall in the world. Do you have a perspective on how we take care of the near-term energy security needs as we move forward to a long-term energy transition future, to a net zero future?
Absolutely. I think it is diversity, it is renewable, and it is resilience. And so a lot of this comes down to partnerships, whether it is for us, the communities that we're a part of, it's meaningful for us to be part of a community. And that is whether we are talking about our bases and places in the United States, our installations around the world, anywhere that we are, we need to create those partnerships where we're able to share that energy. If we're creating excess energy, we're storing it, we're giving it back to the communities, because it really is this consortium approach when you think about how to create that resilience, that redundancy, and that renewable energy that's stored there for everybody. And so that's one piece. The other is partnership. One of the greatest strengths of the United States military as a whole, and for the Navy and Marine Corps, are partnerships. And so as we look at other places that are impacted by climate, that are thinking about their energy resilience, not only are we going there in partnership and finding ways to contribute to their efforts, but we're learning. This is a global effort. If you want to go far, you go together. So that's how we're approaching this as well.
Great. Well, Assistant Secretary Berger, it's great to have you here at COP27. Thank you for making time to meet with the Atlantic Council, and we really wish you the best of luck in the rest of your trip here.
Thank you so much. This is great. I appreciate it.